Hello, my loves. Welcome back to the Unfuck Your Relationships podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Panning, and this is episode 225. Around here, we raise your standards, we break patterns, we upgrade your self-concept. We are talking about boundaries, money, shadow work, your relationship to your body, sex, all of it. We are covering your entire life, baby. Think of this podcast as like big sister energy where I am no fluff, no bullshit, but I am also very open with my heart, and I'm going to share all of me with you, and that will be able to transform your entire life through you listening to this podcast. If you are ready to stop settling for the bare minimum and actually be the woman that you can wake up in the morning and be proud of, you are in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. I am in a new setting. We are testing out the vibes. We are testing out what we like on video. Let me tell you, I told you guys when I first started doing video, it is a very weird experience. And now I've got like one camera in front of me. I got another camera to the side of me. I've got two lights. I've got a mic in my face. I've got this crazy mic thing over here. So it's a lot. And really, I feel like I'm living out my full fame fantasy. I'm like, who am I? Alex Cooper? Call her daddy? Okay. So it's a very interesting experience, but something that I'm really anchoring into, especially as we move into 2026, because at the time of recording this, it's mid-November. So I feel like something that I'm really leaning into is being a beginner at things again. Something I've really noticed in my business and just like certain areas in my life where I think, oh, I've mastered this, like I'm good now. And then I coast, which is not a great energy to be in because I'm always valuing growth. I'm always valuing, bettering myself and getting ahead and doing the thing. But it's very easy to become complacent. It's very easy to become complacent. And that's something that I have noticed in myself where I kind of just coasted in my business and thought, I've mastered this. I don't need to do this anymore. Like I understand how to sell. I understand how to market. I know all of this. And like even my podcast, running that in my house, that's so easy for me. I know how to do this, but this is a new environment for me, right? Even being in this new relationship, I've obviously been in relationships before, but this is a different dynamic. This is a new relationship, so navigating a new person. And I think this is something that, well, I know a lot of people don't want to actually be a beginner at something because their ego is so inflated. And I don't mean being egotistical, like, oh, you're so full of yourself, but I mean the ego, the part of you that is protecting your self-concept, like the way that you see yourself and the way that you want others to see you. Your ego is so strong that it actually cock blocks you from growth because you're so, like your head is so far up your own ass, which is what was basically happening with me, that I didn't want to be bad at something. I didn't want to have to be a beginner. I don't want to come into this podcast studio and fumble on my words and forget what I'm saying and, have it be a bad episode or whatever it is. So the same thing happens in relationships where we don't want to have to be a beginner. We don't want to have to learn a new skill, even, something as simple as joining the Connected Woman or going to the retreats, like the awakening retreats, or joining the experience. It's like, oh, I don't want to have to be seen in my low standards. I don't want to have to be seen in my complacency. I don't want to have to be seen in where it's not even not wanting to be seen in failure. I think what people find more embarrassing is the fact that they never even tried in the first place. Like I would rather do the thing and fall flat on my face than know that I want to do the thing, but not do the thing. And nobody else will know that I want to do the thing, but I do. I know that I've let myself down. And that is just a pain that I cannot afford to live with. Truly, I cannot. And that's something that I've really been reflecting on as we move into 2026. We know that we've talked about words of the year. Everybody does that, but how many people follow through with it? So my word for 2025 was self-love. Y'all, have I been schooled in self-love? I have been tested to the nth degree of like, how much are you going to love yourself, right? So I have had friendships end. I obviously went through a breakup at the very beginning of the year, like the 3rd of Jan. I really took that word and I was like, right, I'm running with it. So, I've been tested, friendships end, like client relationships end, certain things in my business where I was like, this isn't working anymore, team dynamics. So there's been so many things where I've been tested with, what are you going to choose? What decision are you going to make here? Are you going to choose to abandon yourself like you would have in the past, or are you going to choose you and do the most loving thing for you? So this has been a very interesting year of me falling back in love with myself. And I've gotten this reflection so many times, particularly on socials, where people are like, I can see that you are falling back in love with life, and of course I'm in a new relationship. That's part of it. But also, I just feel like I am getting my motherfucking spark back, y'all. I feel like I am getting my spark back. I feel like my aliveness is coming back and my eros is coming back. And that just feels so good. I cannot begin to tell you. And so I've been really riding that high. But then the contrast of that is recognizing where I have been complacent, where I have actually not been. It's not even like not abiding by the standards, but actually just having very low standards for things. So one thing that I was sharing with my partner, we were having this conversation and I said, I feel like I have mastered standards in relationships. And of course, there's always room for improvement, but I actually feel very much like an expert. Like any one of you could hire me on your relationships and I would be able to fucking work your shit out, snip, snap immediately. Not to say that like all of your problems would be solved, but I have this gift. My partner actually reflected this to me. They were like, you have this ability to cut through bullshit in like 0.2 seconds. There is no hiding with you. And that is my absolute superpower. Now, does that partly come from trauma? Yes, it does. Because I am hypervigilant, right? But I have used that. Every shadow contains a gift. I have used that to really transmute that into being a superpower where I can smell bullshit from a mile away. So there is no hiding from me. So I can actually see through your bullshit instantly, right? So coming back to the standards thing, I feel very solid in my standards and relationships. I feel very solid that I can lean into honesty, that I can clean it up if I make a mistake. I can have difficult conversations. I can set boundaries. I can advocate for myself. I can be there for my partner when I'm noticing that I'm being anxious or I'm being avoidant or whatever it is. I can lean in or I can self-soothe. Like I feel solid in all of those things. And that doesn't just relate to my romantic relationship, but also my friendships. I feel super solid in how I show up as a friend. If I'm totally honest, I did a masterclass years ago called How to Be a Safe Human. And one thing I spoke about, which is such a common narrative of, look who's there for you when everything is going to shit. And I'm like, yes, absolutely. But also look who is there for you when everything is going amazing, right? When you get the relationship, when you have the business that blows up, when you have the career, when you get pregnant, when you have all the money in the bank, whatever it is, when you have the body of your dreams, when everything is going well, look who is around you. And I feel super solid in how I show up. And I also, the friendships that I have, I know they show up in the exact same way, that we can hold each other in the low lows and we can hold each other in the high highs. And we can also hold each other in the absolute mundane and like fun of everyday life. So I feel solid in those areas. But I was looking at other areas where I'm like, okay, cool. I could preach high standards all the live long day. But the truth is, I had a habit of losing myself in relationships. Like my habits would go out the window because I would want to spend all of my time with them. At the beginning, that's why they were going away, right? I would want to spend all of my time with them and I would justify, oh, I just don't have time to go to the gym, or I don't have time to do this because, I'm spending time with this person and like I have a boyfriend now and blah, 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 blah. I never gave up my friendships. That's one thing I'm very proud of. But other things that I, quite frankly, were not that committed to, like my health, were gone by the wayside. Things that I felt were difficult, creating content for my business, or, creating a new program, or being more organized in terms of like creating an email sequence or whatever. Those things all gone, right? So I had to get very honest with myself. If I'm going to preach high standards, where am I actually living the opposite? And that's what I want you to reflect on. If you are wanting to up-level your habits and standards in 2026, you need to look at where you are entertaining low standards right now. That was a hook. And that requires a lot of self-honesty. For me, I had to look at, even though I have high standards in my relationships, I have quite low standards for my health, which is just awful. And I do not like to admit that, right? But I looked at what was my word for the year for 2025, self-love. Beautiful. I feel like I have done that. Now, what's next? And I almost feel scared to say this word because once it's out there, and then I'm going to have to be held accountable. But this is literally the reason why I'm choosing this word, is because accountability is something that I want to work on within myself. My word is discipline. Right? So I am all about self-love. I'm all about embodiment. I'm all about connection to yourself. But also, you need to do hard things. Even if I were to bring that into embodiment, there are times where I don't fucking feel like doing it. If I'm totally honest with y'all, there are times where I'm just like, I can't think of anything worse than having to do an embodiment practice right now. Or when I worked with a somatic therapist and she'd be like, what do you feel in your body right now? And I'd just be like, oh my God, like eye roll, stop. I don't care. I don't, full just resistance coming up. But ultimately, discipline is about doing the things that you don't feel like doing in the mood, like in the moment rather. So as Layla Hermosi says, fuck your mood, follow the plan. And whilst there's truth to that, I can also see the other side where it's like, I want you guys to be connected to your intuition, but we can actually take the self-love movement too far where we actually are so willing to drop our standards because we're like, oh my God, I don't feel like going to the gym. I don't feel like working on my business. I don't feel like recording this podcast episode, right? I don't feel like, I don't know, meal prepping. I don't feel like having a difficult conversation with my partner. I don't feel like going to my best friend's birthday. Like, don't be a dick. Don't be a dick. Stop lying to yourself and saying that it's self-love when actually it's coming from avoidance, right? I don't want to have the hard conversation. I don't want to meal prep because I want to get Uber Eats. I don't want to go to the gym because I'd rather sit on the couch and scroll Netflix or scroll TikTok, or I'd watch Netflix. Let's be so for real right now. And I also believe that a lot of us have taken the self-help thing way too far, where you have consumed, we're what, episode 225 now? You've probably listened to 225 episodes and you still have low standards. So it's actually not a lack of information. It's a lack of embodiment. It's a lack of discipline. It's a lack of integrity. It's a lack of actually doing the thing. And it's a lack of like being resourceful, to be honest, right? So I'm going to share something with you guys. And this was not planned that I was going to share this on the podcast, but I'm going to share it now. I've made a decision in my business, and let me actually back up. Something that I have seen in successful people, business, relationships, health, sexuality, whatever, is that they make decisions quickly, not impulsively, but they don't sit in indecision for ages, right? And so that's something that I have been implementing. As soon as I clocked that in myself, where I was like, oh, because my partner, she's an Aries. She makes decisions like very quickly to the point where I'm like, oh my God, slow down. I'm getting whiplash. But she makes decisions very, very quickly. And I was looking at myself, and it's really beautiful because she's an Aries. She does it quickly. I'm a Virgo. I'm much more grounded in that sense. And I'm quite analytical. I like to think things through. But it's so cool because we really learn a lot from each other. I'm like instilling in her, making thoughtful and intentional decisions and like actually being grounded and taking a little bit more time, whereas she's helping me with like speed and momentum. And so as soon as I clocked the part of me that can sit in indecision and be like, oh, I actually don't know. That's what I just tell myself. Oh, I don't know. I don't know what to do yet. That's not actually true. I'm just afraid of making the wrong decision. So as soon as I clocked that in myself, I started making quick decisions and I was like, whatever, like if it ends up being quote unquote the wrong decision, I trust myself to make it right. I trust myself to clean it up. So with that being said, I've made a big decision in my business that these retreats that are coming up in January 2026, these will be the last retreats that I am running. I know lots of you have been saying, I like can't wait to come to your retreats. Oh my gosh, I know that it's in the cards for me next year, as in like 2027. Well, unfortunately, there's not going to be retreats in 2027 or the future. That's the decision that I have made. And it's bittersweet because I love in-person work. The retreats were so like just something that was so juicy for me to do and something that I really wanted to show myself that I could do as well. And these two retreats that I'm running, I'm so excited for, Awakening Her and Awakening Him. They're like back to back, and it's about healing your relationship to the feminine and the masculine. And then like the first one, Awakening Her, is about connection to yourself and healing your relationship with women and healing your relationship to the feminine. It's like pleasure and joy and ecstasy and being in your body and allowing your rage and taking up space and confidence and connecting to your body. And then we have Awakening Him, which is the retreat for the masculine, which is about, responsibility and purpose and staying committed and disciplined to a certain extent, but emotional containment, right? And then bringing that into relationships so that you are fully integrated. So you can do one or the other. You can do Awakening Her or Awakening Him, but you can choose to do both. And that's what I recommend because they're designed to go as a journey. So nearly every single person has decided to do both. And I feel so excited about that journey. Like it is it is life-changing. I was writing down, what we're going to be doing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be so life-changing. I can't fucking wait. And even when I get little glimpses of it, of the girls on the experience, which is my year-long program, and we did an embodiment call right before I came here to record this. And I just had tears in my eyes, like witnessing them in their embodiment. Cause I'm like, oh my gosh, this brings me so much joy to just like witness women come home to themselves. And so that's always going to be a part of my business, embodiment. But there are just other projects that I want to focus on. And so that is part of the decisiveness of like, okay, cool. What needs to stay and what needs to go? And that is part of having standards, right? So just before I move on from that, if you want to come to the retreats, and this is like, cool, you have the website, you can look at like, the accommodation or the food or like fucking whatever. But there's a reason that I don't tell you what we're doing because it is a felt experience that you just know. You're like, I'm fucking meant to be there. Maybe you don't even know why. I remember at our last retreat, I asked the girls when we got there, I was like, so why did you come to this? And everyone was like, I do not know. I don't know why I'm supposed to be here, but I just know that I'm supposed to be here. And so that's a feeling that when you know, you know. And of course, if you have questions about logistics or you just like want some help deciding, slide into my DMs on Instagram at Michelle Panning, happy to help. So coming back to this decisiveness around having high standards, it's so important, right? That let's bring it to relationships. If you are umming and ahhing about breaking up with your partner and it's been, 9 months and you've really thrown everything at it, you've done the work, blah, 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 then it's time for you to make a decision. And people fear making a decision because they don't want to have to stick to it, right? So same thing where I was scared to say my word for the year in 2026 is discipline because I know I have 50,000 people a month listening to this podcast that are going to be curious to see on my Instagram and my TikTok, like, how you going with that discipline thing, right? That if my body has not changed, if I look exactly the same by December 31st, 2026, like, how'd you go with your fucking health journey, right? If I'm still bloated as fuck, if I'm still, scrolling, whatever, cool. And whilst I don't necessarily, and this is going to make sense for you, because you could say, well, Michelle, you could just be scrolling in private and nobody would know. Nobody would know, but I would know. And that would affect my level of self-respect. And that's the same thing for you. Nobody knows if you eat the ice cream. Nobody knows if you get into an argument with your partner. Nobody knows if you throw a tantrum, other than your partner, obviously. Nobody knows if you end up scrolling all night and then you're exhausted to go to work in the morning and you just say like, oh, I had a shit sleep. Nobody knows that, but you do. And so when we say like, who are you when no one's watching? That is the thing about high standards. Be the person that you want to be. And that means consistent action, being congruent, following through on what you say you're going to do. The person that you want to become in 2026 is not just going to come up and bite you on the ass. You have to become her. And that is through conscious choice. And my clients were asking me the other day in the Connected Woman, but how? How do you do this? How do you go from like person A to person B, right? How do you go from the person that you are right now to the person that you know you're meant to be? How do you fulfill your potential? I'm like, it's not one thing. It's not that, do this one exercise, listen to this one meditation, do this one embodiment practice, and poof, magic, everything is going to shift for you. No, it is consistent effort, daily effort for you to change. And it's the things where you won't even notice, right? So if you eat one salad, you're not going to drop 10 kilos. If you eat one Big Mac, you are not going to put on 10 kilos. But if you eat nothing but Big Macs, you will put on 10 kilos, right? And it's the same thing. It's like in relationships, one conversation is not going to make or break your relationship. One disagreement is not going to make or break your relationship. But if you are causing if you're causing arguments and, acting like an entitled little brat and you have low standards for the men that you let into your life or the women that you let into your life, that is one time is not going to make or break. But over time, consistently, over years, yeah, you're going to feel pretty shit about yourself. And that's not what I want for you, right? I just want to be so clear that, because it has come to my attention, although I call myself the trigger queen, it has come to my attention that people are scared to join my programs because they're like, I'm intimidated by you. And I don't mean, oh my God, you're so intimidated by me. Like, I'm so holier than thou. I don't mean that. I mean, they're like, you're full on. You're like really triggering. You're aggressive. I don't know if you're going to yell at me. I have no interest in yelling at you. And I want you to hear this. When I am being direct, it is because I love you. I don't even know you. Whoever's listening to this, I don't know you. I don't have to have met you. But I love you and I know you. Because if you're listening to this, it's probably because you resonate with my story on some level, right? I had a history of unhealthy relationships, of toxic relationships. My standard was below the bare minimum, right? I think we've all heard the story of where I chased a guy through the Straits of Queenstown in New Zealand, half drunk in 8 a.m. on a Monday morning, begging him to love me. So, there's that. I'm never here to shame you or make you feel bad about yourself. I am here to help you remember who the fuck you are. And you can play at a much higher level than you currently are. I want you to fulfill the potential that you know that you have inside you. The people who think that they have no potential, they're not joining my stuff. You're not even listening to this podcast because you have no interest in growth. If you're listening to this podcast, it is because a part of you knows you want more for your life, and you know on some level, even if 99.9% of you doubts that you can have more, there's still that 0.1% that is like, but maybe I could. I'm speaking to that part. I'm speaking to that part of you that believes on some level that you can have more. And the reality is, if you want to shift your life, if you want to go to A to B, or maybe you're like, I think I need to go from A to Z, right? If you want to make that journey from where you currently are to where you want to be, whether it's relationships, money, sexuality, friendship, health, whatever it is, business, if you want to make that jump, it is about expanding that 0.1% to being your 90%. I mean, it would be great if it was 100%, but I think we're all human and I think we all have doubts, especially when we have big dreams and we're like, oh, I don't know, like I have a history of toxic relationships. Do you really think that I could get married and have a healthy relationship? I do. You know why? Because I've done it. And I often joke that if my ex-boyfriends from back in the day came across my Instagram or listened to this podcast, which like, hi, shout out if you are, love you. Thank you for being part of my journey. I often joke that if they saw me being like, hi, I'm a relationship coach, they'd be like, are you insane? You have no business coaching other people on how to be in relationships because you were a shit show. So the reason that I say this is because I had the lowest of standards for myself and for other people. And I also chose people who expected nothing of me because I didn't want to have to contribute to a relationship. I didn't want to have to be a healthy adult partner. I wanted to be a baby. And that is really what sparked this for me is I've really been contemplating this decision around, do I want to have children? Do I not? I'm 36, so it's kind of, time for me to seriously think about it. Prior, when I was like 28, I'm like, I've got all the time in the world. I've got like 20 years, right? So it's a bit different now, and I've still got time, right? It's not like the eggs are gone tomorrow. But I've been contemplating this and I was like, oh my gosh, I had this thing come through where I went, oh my gosh, I don't want a baby because if I have a baby, I don't get to be a baby anymore. And so that's what sparked for me this thing around discipline and growing the fuck up and being an adult. And yes, it requires a little bit of like maybe drill sergeant energy where it's like, okay, cool, like fuck your feelings, like fuck your mood, follow the plan. It does require a little bit of that because there's times where we're like, I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to fucking drink water. Like, I don't want to, but I don't want to have the conversation. I don't want to have to set a boundary. I'd rather just avoid and scroll TikTok. So I need that. And also it's anchoring in consistently to that 0.1%. Maybe it's 0.1 for you, but it's like, it could be 20% of you that believes you can have more. It could be 50, it could be 60, it could be 80% of you that you're like, yeah, fuck, I believe that. So it is about, that old, I think it's a Native American folklore with, the little boys talking to his grandpa about his grandfather about, or his grandfather is telling him about like the two wolves, and one is like darkness and one is light. And he's telling him this story about, how they fight with each other. And the little boy says, well, which one wins in the end? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. And that's really what it is. Whatever it is that you want to anchor into, whether it's more confidence or self-worth or self-love or discipline or integrity or responsibility, whatever your thing is, it is about consistently anchoring into that thing and feeding that wolf more than you feed self-doubt and insecurity and being a child and irresponsibility and lying and all of those things. Are you going to get it perfect 100% of the time? Absolutely not. But it's a choice. Clock it, own it, clean it up. And like I said, I was speaking to the girls inside the Connected Woman around how to do this. And I'm like, it is about consistent consistent action. The thing that you would normally do, which is avoid the difficult conversation, or spiral because you haven't heard from your partner, or spiral because he wants to go on a camping trip with his boys, or you would constantly be accusing him of cheating, or whatever it is, or the part of you that just wants to scroll, or the part of you that wants to watch Netflix for 8 hours. And it's not that you can never do that, but like if that's your daily routine, like you're probably going to feel pretty shit, right? Speaking from experience, like whilst in the moment, I was like, this is great. Afterwards, I'm like, oh my God, I feel terrible. So it's about seeing the thing that you want to do impulsively. Like your impulse is to scroll or to avoid the conversation or to do the cooked thing in your relationship. And you consciously choose to do the opposite. This is how you clean up self-sabotage. This is how you have high standards. This is how you maintain high standards. And it is really as simple as that. It is as difficult as that because that requires discipline. It requires discipline for you to be like, oh my God, I don't want to have this conversation, but I'm going to fucking do it. And stop waiting for you to feel ready to do whatever the fuck it is, whether it is having that conversation, breaking up with your partner, asking for commitment, whether it is getting back on the dating apps or getting off the dating apps, because I'm going to be honest, some of y'all have no business being on there. I'll get messages and it's like, so my partner of 5 years and I just broke up yesterday and I met this guy on the apps today. I'm like, sorry, pardon, back up. Okay. So it's like looking at that and then how can I actually do the opposite of that? You do that enough times, I promise you, your entire life will change. So I'm really excited for this journey because you guys are going to get, let me say this. I want to share so much more of myself with you guys. I am so grateful that you guys have learned so much from the podcast and the previous 224 episodes, and I am still going to be the big sis advice girly. Do not get me wrong. But I also really want to build a community with you guys. I want you to feel connected to me. I want you to feel like you can see yourself in me on some level. I remember this training from this woman. Her name is Melanie Ann Layer, and she owns the brand Alpha Femme. So she does a lot of around like manifestation, energetics, business, branding, storytelling, all of these things. And I was watching her training called The One. Now, this is a woman who has built $100 million brand. Okay? This is not a coach who's like, oh, I just did my 7 figures, which is still incredible. But this is someone where I'm like, whoa, you're like the top of the top, right? And so you could imagine that there could be a massive gap between her and I. And I was watching this training and I was watching a replay. I wasn't even there live. And I was crying because she was telling her story. And I'm like, her story and I were not the same. She was talking about, being homeless and witnessing this awful thing that had happened in front of her and things that I haven't directly experienced. But I could relate to the pain of it and hopelessness and depression and anxiety and feeling like you want to give up. And I was crying. Now I'm going to cry. I was crying watching her training because she said, take me off the pedestal. Yes, I've built this like incredible brand, but I am no different to you. And I felt like she was speaking directly to me, to my soul, like piercing my soul. And I felt like she was in my living room and we were just having a chat, or we were on FaceTime and we were best friends. And I don't even know if she knows my name, you know? And that is how I want this to feel with you guys, where I can share my story and not from a place of self-absorption of, oh, I'm just going to talk about myself so that, I'll have fun because I'm the best. I don't want to create separation. I actually want to create closeness with you. I want you to be able to hear parts of my story and be able to see yourself in that. Because if I can change my life, I was going to say not to toot my own horn, but actually to toot my own horn. If I can go from being I barely graduated high school. I had to take an extra semester to graduate, and I barely graduated at that. I started college. I did 1 semester of makeup, like cosmetology school, and dropped out. So a college dropout. I started stripping at 19 years old. I had a drinking problem. I was addicted to painkillers for a few years. Get this, I stopped drinking during that time and convinced myself I was sober. I was on 800 milligrams of tramadol every day. Just so you know, I was prescribed 50 milligrams, just so you know how much I was taking. And I convinced myself that I was sober because I somehow wasn't doing 7 tequila shots every night. If I can do that and have toxic relationships, abusive relationships, gaslighting, me literally throwing fucking remotes across the room, like being kind of an awful human being, to be honest. If I can do that, if I can go from that and then move across the world from Canada to Australia, start my own business that has done over $2 million in revenue, cash, not sales, cash, start a podcast that has over 2 million downloads, be in a beautiful relationship, have the most incredible friendships, and feel so secure and loved within myself, I have no fear that you can also do that. I have no fear for you. You can absolutely do the same. And that is where I need you. I don't need you to, but I hope you will listen to that 0.1% that says you can have more and you can have higher standards. Is it going to be easy all the time? No, but that's part of it. That's part of maturing your masculine. That is part of growing up. That is part of being an adult. That is part of having healthy relationships. It's not going to be easy all of the time, but it's not about who you are when it's easy. It's about who you are when it's difficult. Who are you when things get challenging? Does all your shit go out the window? Do all of your tools go by the wayside? Do you fall into a fucking heap? Or do you get back up? Do you rise like a phoenix and do the damn thing because you know that you have so much more in the tank? I am so excited for what is going to come from this podcast and the business and my spaces. Like, I'm revamping the experience. If you're thinking about being inside the experience, like if you know you're meant to be in that space, please do. It's getting a massive facelift. It is time. I'm so excited. It's a good time to be in my world. And I know people say that, but truly it is a good fucking time to be in my world because I feel viscerally this up level within myself. I feel my heart so fucking open. I feel my channel so open. Like, it's so interesting, guys. I have my laptop sitting here. I had notes. This was a totally different episode. I was going to do an episode on like how to be a high value woman, which I can totally do that episode. But I have not looked at my notes one time, not even one time, which I'm so sorry to my coach because I'm supposed to have like hooks in here and like all the things, but I have not done any of that. Because I just need to talk. You guys, the girl can yap. And yeah, that's really it. Like, I'm excited for you guys to be in this space, to listen to this podcast. So things are going to be pivoting a little bit where we're not just going to be unfucking your relationship romantically. but we're going to be unfucking your relationship with yourself and your life. So I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. Like I said, these retreats, if you know you're meant to be there, these are the last ones that are going to be running. The link will be in the description. If you have questions or you want to just like talk about something or you want to see if it's a good fit for you, please DM me. I'm so happy for us to have a conversation. We can hop on a call if you want, and we can make that happen. All right, my love, thank you so much for listening to today's podcast episode. Take what resonates and leave the rest. There is no obligation, but you do have a responsibility to yourself to actually do the work. So implement what you have learned here. Let this episode be a reminder that you are built for more. You are not built for the bare minimum. You are not built for mediocre. You are meant to live a big, beautiful, bold life. And if you want to go deeper, come follow me on Instagram at Michelle Panning. That is where I share all the behind the scenes content, and you will get to follow me and my journey as I raise my standards alongside you. So I love you. I believe in your next level, and I will see you in the next episode. Now go unfuck your life, babe.